Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of Two Vegans Hanging Out. Today we have a very special guest, my friend Kelley Jakle, and Kelley is an actress, singer, songwriter, and animal rights activist. So Kelley, thank you so much for joining us today.
I am so happy to be here.
I'm so glad that you're here and that we were able to make this work with your busy production schedule, so thank you. So do you want to start by just telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah, I am a singer and songwriter and actor, and I split my time between LA and Austin. I I feel like I had an answer all come. That's basically me. I'm vegan and I love animals, and I'm really passionate about it, and that's why I'm here. And we're friends. So that's also why I'm here.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all perfect. I think it's very cool. I know you wear a lot of hats in your career. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's like to sort of juggle being a part of two really challenging industries, both like the entertainment and music industry, and what that's like for you?
Sure. Yes, they are both challenging, but there is nothing else in the world that I would rather do. I even tried for a bit because, a steady lifestyle was something that I would love to have, but unfortunately, this is these are the only two things that I want to do. So I've always loved wearing a lot of hats, whether you want to call that ADD or just a lot of different passions. I've even in high school, I loved the arts, but I also loved sports, and now it's not so much sports. I mean, I love to exercise and especially yoga, but in terms of where I split my time, I love collaborating and just the creative process in general, whether that's with music or whether it's with film and television. I love working with other creative people, and both of those areas have a lot of that. So I feel very lucky to get to dabble in both.
That's awesome. And I definitely think of it as you being just a multi-talented, very skilled person versus someone with ADD, but we can go with either. So you mentioned that you split your time between Los Angeles and Austin. And to me, just as someone who lives in Southern California, I think of those as being pretty vegan-friendly cities. So do you want to talk a little bit about how long you've been vegan and sort of what inspired you to start that journey?
I started my transition in 2016 when I met Mark Kapka, who we both know very well, and he has been vegan for far longer than I have. But I was a bit of a carnivore before that. I never even entertained the idea of being vegan, so I have to admit that I was a little bit stubborn in my process. But I, over the course of the next probably year and a half, I gave up meat first, and then gave up, cheese and dairy, and the last thing that I gave up was chocolate chip cookies. Not that you can't have vegan chocolate chip cookies, but I was like, okay, I'm vegan except for if someone brings chocolate chip cookies to set and they're not vegan, I'm still gonna have one. And eventually it just got a lot easier for me to make it black and white, just be really strict with myself. And the difference for that with me was, in terms of health, I've always sort of broken rules when I feel like it with my health. So it had to be about animals and the ethical. It's not even a dilemma anymore, but not wanting to contribute in any way to the exploitation or harm of animals. And once I got really clear about that, then it was much easier just to be like, no, I don't want any part of any product, even if it's a lovely freshly baked chocolate chip cookie. I'm good. I would rather not. Thank you. But it took some time. Yeah.
That makes sense. And I think it's funny because I think both of our vegan journeys were inspired by the same person. So Mark is it took him a little longer to inspire me than I think it took him to inspire you, but it did eventually get through. But I was stubborn also. I did have my reservations. And even when I was vegetarian, because I started as a vegetarian before going vegan, I even had, and I think I've told you this, I've even said to Brian too, who's also friends with Mark, that I thought Mark was really extreme. I was like, what does he even eat? And it was just so funny to have such a different mindset then, than I do now. But for the longest time, I was like, we can be vegetarian, but he's crazy if he thinks we're going to go vegan, and it was so funny to see that shift in mindset, and what I love too is Mark was never intense or like pushy about it. He actually, I can't even describe what his approach was, but for some reason it worked. It was just, I don't know.
He asks the right questions.
Sure.
He really makes you think about everything that you're doing and the why. And if you can't come up with the answers like from your own self, as opposed to just, oh, well, this is the way things are done, or this is the way I've always done it, it inspires you to kind of do your own research and look into things and be able to come up with a solid answer that you feel good about. And having to do that in this area leads to a lot of research, leads to some big realizations, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so too. So I think I feel fortunate that, and I'm sure you feel this way too, that he sort of helped us through that thought process, because I can be stubborn too, and I don't know that anyone else could have inspired me to go vegan. So
I agree with you. It's a tough process, even with Mark's help.
Yeah, and I don't know, even at some point, I think he decided in his mind, he was like, Anastasia's ready to go from vegetarian to vegan, and he had this, I don't know, I think it was in that moment when he was like, okay, so there's this movie I want you to see. And it's not like I hadn't done the research or seen all the documentaries, but he wanted me to see Earthlings. And I was like trying to get through the film. I was only 5 minutes in. I even texted him and I was like, I don't know if I can watch this. And he was like, I think it would be good for you, because I think you're missing like a piece of this puzzle, or you're not fully understanding the full scope of what your choices mean, not just for animals, but for the environment and for people. And so anyway, I think I've told you this story. I mentioned this to Rachel Melvin when I was on her podcast, How Bitches Are Made. But by the end of the film, I immediately went vegan that day, which was, I couldn't not. But I found out later that Mark had not even seen that movie.
That's hilarious.
And I was so mad. I was like, you made me sit through that, and you don't even know how awful it was. And he was like, well, it's what you needed to see. He said, I didn't need to see it. And I was both equally frustrated, right, equally frustrated and grateful for that experience. Yeah, so that was a joy. So while we're on the topic of veganism, have you experienced other changes sort of in your life or your lifestyle since switching to vegan?
Definitely. I have 100% noticed a difference in my health and the way that my body works. There were ways it didn't work very well prior, and I'm really, really grateful to have a much better digestive system. I feel a lot healthier. Mm-hmm. I feel, I don't think I was even aware of any sort of guilt that I was feeling before, because animal products are so well labeled as just that, as products, mm-hmm. as opposed to like a piece of an animal. Yeah. You go to the grocery store, it's like plastic covered meat, and it's a product as opposed to a creature,
right?
A being. But I have noticed at least the absence of any guilt in the way that I consume food, and not just for animals, but for the environment. It makes me feel like I'm doing my part in a way, mm-hmm. Which is a really great way to feel. And also, it's really nice to not have to worry about if something is undercooked or like,
right?
That I'm not worried about whether the chicken has fully been cooked through and all of that. Like
sure.
don't worry about as much.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's one thing I've noticed. So all my stomach issues went away, and I think we've talked about this before, and it was a big change for me, but also I haven't gotten food poisoning really, actually, now that I think about it, since going vegan, because there isn't, I mean, it doesn't mean you don't have to wash your vegetables, people, because you do need to wash your vegetables, but I mean, you're not like, you can eat vegetables raw and you don't really have any issues. So yeah, it's definitely made a big difference in that way. And I think too, we were talking about how the way that you consume not just food, but also products, right? Like cosmetics and things like that has changed now that you're more thoughtful about where those things come from.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, wearing leather now or buying leather is totally off the table.
Yeah.
Like and cosmetics, you know, I it wasn't even something that I even thought about before.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
The cruelty to animals, and not just the cruelty that I know we talked about this before too, the difference between cruelty free and vegan.
Mm-hmm.
That you never think that there's an animal ingredient inside of like mascara or foundation, but it does happen.
Yeah.
And that was something that I never thought of before. That's important to me now, and I'm so grateful that the world has been changing, that those labels are now on products. They need to be on products, so that we can be aware of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wasn't fully aware either, but I think we both had the same experience because we like to be informed about the decisions we're making. I think as you and I both started to begin our vegan journey, we started to learn those things on our own, right? The more we read and I don't know, started paying attention to not just ingredient labels, but on food, but also on the products we use. And I know that you have lots of opportunities to get your hair and makeup done when you're attending events or when you're going on stage or you're going to be in front of a camera. So I think you mentioned too, you have an awesome person who does your hair and makeup that makes sure the products are friendly.
Genevieve Garner, she's been doing my hair and makeup for pretty much everything since 2012. We met. She did my hair and makeup for the first Pitch Perfect premiere, and then all the ones after that as well. But she is a fellow vegan, so it's really nice to know that everything that she uses on me is going to be vegan. I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know, you know, the more we get into this lifestyle, the more we focus on what we can do in terms of activism, not just the choices we make every day. But I know you've worked pretty closely with certain organizations. Did you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I am such a huge fan of Mercy for Animals. I know you are too, and for what they do for compassion and for animals and for spreading awareness and everything they do. Yeah, I love them a lot and try to support them as much as often as I can. And the most recent thing, they did a Voices of Compassion benefit concert during the early stages of the pandemic, and Forty, my partner, and Robin Ellis, my band Robin Ellis, we performed for that, which was, well, a wild experience because it was totally virtual and he was in Austin and I was in LA. So it wasn't really a live performance so much as we put something together for it. But yeah, I can't wait to get to support them in more ways in the future.
That's wonderful. And I did see that performance, and you wouldn't have known that you guys were in two totally different states. You were so like in sync with each other, and you both sounded so beautiful that it was really a touching performance. Actually, it made me kind of emotional. I was like, oh, so like the combination of like what it was for, but your incredible talent, and then also that it was in the middle of a pandemic. I was like, oh, all the feels. Like it was really like kind of overwhelming, but you did a great job as always. So since so much of being a vegan is about food, and I know you have a lot of recipes you love to make at home, do you have one that you want to tell us about that maybe we can share in the description, unless they're secret recipes? I'd love to know.
I don't really have secrets. Well, I would love to share. It's just such a basic salad, but it's one of our favorite things to make. We do a bag of romaine, a bag of arugula. We do everything organic. A bell pepper, a little pack of cherry tomatoes or baby heirlooms, any sort of tomato you want. avocado,
Yum.
Veal Life feta,
Yum.
White Life tempeh bacon. Sometimes we mix it up too and do like a buffalo regular tempeh, or like an amino acid soaked tempeh.
Nice.
And I'm trying to think of any other actual ingredients in it.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it is kind of a lot. But for the dressing, it's a super simple dressing. I just put in like lemon, olive oil, Dijon mustard, maybe some buffalo sauce if you want to add a little kick, salt and pepper.
Oh, yum.
Yeah.
That sounds so good and so good for you. It's really balanced, actually. Bravo.
Thank you.
So do you have a favorite vegan restaurant? And I know this one's tough and it always stumps people, but I still like to ask, and in case there's somewhere I haven't been that I should try.
Right. Well, let's see. I can't pick one.
That's okay.
But in LA, I love Pura Vida. Absolutely love Pura Vida. No one does vegan Italian food like Chef Tara.
Agree. Yeah.
It's funny. I see her name written so much. I don't say it out loud a lot.
Yeah, I know.
Not funny. But and then Crossroads is always really good as well in LA and Sage. In Austin, I love this restaurant called Beer Plant.
Okay.
And Rebel Cheese is amazing. Yes. Amazing cheeses and sandwiches and salads and all the things. And then the most recent discovery was we were in Savannah for a wedding and found a restaurant called The Haunt, which opened 8 months ago in Savannah. And we could not believe how incredible the food was. Like, we went for dinner the night that we discovered it, and we were leaving the next day. And we brought our luggage to the restaurant because we had to eat there again. We had to try as many things on that menu as we possibly could. And we did a really good job, actually. But it's so good. I would recommend going to Savannah, too.
Oh, my gosh. That's amazing. Yeah, and I hadn't heard of that place before, but I do love the name. And I'll have to add it to my list because I have been to Pura Vida. I have been to Crossroads for brunch, but I feel like I'm missing out on an opportunity by not having been there for dinner. I feel like it's a totally different vibe. So I want to go back.
Yeah, the bolognese is wonderful.
Ooh, okay. I know there's some unique stuff. I think there's even like a steak, but it's an eggplant, but it's charred in such a way that it kind of looks like a steak, which is kind of trippy, but I'd be open to trying it.
Never.
Let's see. Beer Plant, I haven't tried yet. I didn't get there when I was in Austin, but that's because I went to Rebel Cheese 3 times instead.
Yeah.
So
Beer Plant, when you do go back, the buffalo cauliflower wings, a lot of vegan restaurants try to do that, and they have the best ones I've ever had.
Nice.
They also have an amazing like fried chicken kind of spicy sandwich that's an oyster mushroom.
Ooh.
Fried oyster mushroom. It's really good.
I love that. Yeah, I know that was one place you recommended, but I couldn't stop going back to Rebel Cheese, and I was like, I have to make a tough decision here. And I was traveling alone, and I didn't have someone to help me eat all the food, and so I had to be really selective about where I went. So I went to Rebel Cheese 3 times, and it was worth it.
It's so good.
It was the best. So thank you for that recommendation, because it was like the highlight of my visit.
Yay! Yes.
It was really good. So did you want to share any advice or any lessons that you learned in your process of going vegan, maybe for folks who are interested in incorporating more plant-based foods into their life?
Sure. I mean, if you're thinking about it, if you're entertaining the idea already, that's amazing. Good on ya. Like, feel proud of just investigating, because change is hard. It's really hard, especially if you've lived your life a certain way for however many years. It's a hard transition. So I guess the next step is being patient with yourself, doing your own research, watching the documentaries. I think a lot of people resist watching them because they know that they're not going to like what they see. And that's exactly the reason to watch them, because they make a big difference, not just in education, but in really seeing the damage that's being done. And yeah, some people, it's easier to go cold turkey, black and white. I'm just doing it, or I'm not going to do it at all. That's great if that's your style. If cutting out meat first and then cheese next is easier for you, whatever way is going to make it stick, whatever is going to help the longevity of this process for you is correct. That's my advice.
Awesome. I think that's wonderful advice. And I do try to tell people, go with a style that makes sense for them. So just because I was able to go from vegetarian to vegan within the duration of a documentary does not mean it is the right choice for everybody, especially if you're taking this seriously, because it is a lifestyle. It's not like a limited run diet. It's a big change. And so I do think
it's a real fundamental change that affects every day. So it's a big deal.
Absolutely. So did you have anything else you wanted to add, or any projects coming up you wanted to share with us, or any other pieces of info you wanted to give our audience?
I don't think I have any more advice or anything like that. Projects coming up. I just filmed a Christmas movie, which was really, really fun in Steamboat Springs, and that hopefully will be out this holiday season. It's called Yuletide the Knot. Aww. Yeah, and just did a short film that was really fun that will hopefully be out soon as well. It was really nice to be filming again after a very, very long break.
Yeah.
And currently been working on my solo album for a couple of years now, and Mark and I are going to work together to create a video aspect to it. So we'll probably try to get Brian involved. So.
Yeah, we'd love that. Give him a call. He'll come out and you guys can shoot something. That's so exciting. And I'm excited about your Christmas movies. I feel like, I don't know, you fit perfectly on every cover I've seen for any Christmas movie you've done. You just fit perfectly with like the magic of Christmas. Like, you've got that look.
It's my favorite. I love it so much. So it's really fun for me to get to celebrate Christmas during December, and then again, in April, when we get to film these. But I would do one every year if I had the choice.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. I can see why. I think that's wonderful. Well, I'm going to link some of your information in the description so people can find you. Where do you want people looking for you? I know you've got a Patreon account.
Yes, Patreon is my main passion. I love Patreon so much because it allows freedom of creativity as an artist, and it also has built this wonderful community of people who are friends with each other from all over the world. I can't say enough good things about Patreon in general, but my Patreon is patreon.com/Kelley Jakle, and there are many different levels of just being a part of things, but I release new music every month there.
Awesome. Very exciting. Well, I will include all that information in the description so people can connect with you on Patreon. I know that that's become a very well-liked platform, especially in the last couple of years since so many people have been home. So I'm excited for people to check that out. And I just wanted to thank you again for taking time out of your busy production schedule to connect with me today and share some words of wisdom. And I'm looking forward to our Pura Vida date in a couple weeks.
Me too. And please, it's my pleasure. This is such a cool thing that you're doing, and you're so inspiring. So I'm really grateful to be here.
Thank you, Kelly, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Sounds good.
Bye. Thanks again for joining me for this episode of Two Vegans Hanging Out with Kelley Jakle. I hope that you found this conversation interesting and informative. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel so that you can see future and past episodes of Two Vegans Hanging Out. If you'd like more information on Kelley or about VegShe, I will include all of that information in the description below. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you here again soon. Take care, everybody.